Hey everyone, and welcome back to CJRaceCars YouTube channel. Today we have an Eagle update, and we've gotten a lot done since the last video that you guys have seen. Troy got the doors hinged and latched. He's working on the quarter window lip. Danny is doing a final fit to the front end. We got the titanium front entry done. So the body mounting is just about done. Also, we got both headers done, which is awesome. Danny was definitely stressed about the driver's side because it's pretty tight. Got both charge pipes done other than 2 V-bands that we're gonna add later. We also got one downpipe done, working on a second downpipe, so really big update. This thing's going to powder coat really soon. Also, something else we want to talk about. We've had a lot of comments asking about Leroy. Are we gonna show videos of Leroy? Are we gonna show progress of Leroy? We're getting footage of the entire build on Leroy, which we're also working on now. When it's done, Cletus is gonna post a video of him opening the body and he wants to unveil it. Once he unveils it, a few days later, we'll post a pretty long video probably of the entire build. So we are filming it. We'll have a video of the entire build. It's something we've never done. It's something I don't think's ever been done, to be honest. So it'll be pretty cool. A few little things we're figuring out as we go, but it'll be really cool. Really cool to see Leroy with a body, especially since me and Troy both kind of did a lot of the cage work and stuff on it originally. Pretty cool to get to work on it again. So yes, the answer is we will definitely show you Leroy build.
This is what I'm looking at for mounting my doors. And what I'm trying to do here, this is a Tim McAmis hinge kit. While we're designing our own, we still use the Tim McAmis stuff. This will go on the inside to reinforce it, but we don't need that right now. Basically what I try to do when I mount these is I try and mount them as far out as I possibly can and as far apart as I possibly can to give them the most leverage to keep the door secure. You'll see that this is, I would ideally like to mount this down here, but I have to come up a little bit to make room for my hinge. One has a long pivot point, one has a short. And the way that works is the short one will go on top, the long one will go on the bottom. And what that does is you're putting the door on, it affords you the opportunity to get the lower one started and then focus on getting your top one started. Otherwise, you're trying to get them both at the same time, and it just makes it easier to have one longer than the other. Now I see people making mistakes. They put these too close together. They might put them up in here. The problem with putting them in here is you have to look at your leverage point from here to here. As this door pivots open, this section of the door goes into the car behind the fender. If you have plenty of room inside the car, that's not necessarily an issue. Another problem that I see people is they'll move this point back. This plane here, they'll move it back to try and, for whatever reason, to line up with, you know, the A-pillar or whatever. The problem with that is now you have even more of the door going into the car when you open the door. This particular application, I got a turbo right here with a downpipe. So I'm trying to make sure I have as little of this going into the car when they open the door as possible.
Today's video is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 5 million members across the country, it's the most fun and exciting way to get on action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on any 2 players, get a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Sign up today to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to get your $50 bonus, it's guaranteed. One Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard gets you a win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free wins. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. I'll definitely be making plays all season long while I watch my Bucks. For this Sunday, I'm going for Mike Evans to have more than 70.5 receiving yards. And I'm picking Tyreek Hill to go for less than 97.5 yards. Prize Picks is super simple and a lot of fun to play. Download the app today and use the code CJRaceCars to get $50 after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CJRaceCars to get $50 instantly after playing your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
So what I'm going to do is drill some holes, get this all mounted up, get my backing plate on, get it all bolted together. could have made that hole a scotch bigger. But I didn't. I have my hinges bolted on. They're square to the door. This is still going to have to get the corner knocked off it a little bit so that it goes in easy without gouging up on the door. And that's basically what you got. And the door will pivot on that. Another thing to take into consideration when you do these is that these need to be straight, and they also want to be level. In other words, you don't want this one at an angle or what have you. They want to be basically this in one line. That way they'll slip off and on easy enough.
Need to go in some? Oh, it's high.
I'm thinking I want to go down with the door a little before I nail it.
Yeah. Lower it out a little bit.
I think so. Yeah, because I figure once the door's hung, then I'll finish trimming the bottom. So if it's just sitting on the door, that'll allow me to... I have my doors hinged, so now I want to grind in my clearance for the bottom and my gap for the back. Right now I just want to trim this bottom a little bit so that the door will open. I have some clearance issues in the front because it's setting on the rocker panel, and it won't let this open more than a little bit. It's binding down here. So, but once I get that sorted, the door will swing open. And that's another reason why we're so critical about getting the pivot point perpendicular. If the top was out a little bit, as the door swings open, the weight of the door would hold it open. And if the top was in a little farther than the bottom pin, it would, as the door opened, it would swing up. So we're trying to make it mimic a 1969 Camaro as much as we can. So we try to put the pins perpendicular at 90 degrees. We're ready to install our latch and catch mechanism. As you can see, there's no real provision for it here. This wants to kind of go on the other side of the wall here. So to locate that, I'm going to grab our doubler plate that goes on the outside. You can see that pretty much locates that. Generally, wants to go somewhere around the middle of the dealio. And we'll locate that like so. And then you got to figure out how deep. And if you measure, it only need to be 7/8 of an inch plus the thickness of the material. So I'm gonna guess like 15/16 Doesn't have to be exact because I can file it in. So at that point, I gotta drill some holes. This is the part that goes in the car, and we'll catch that. So when you open the door, this snaps open and releases that, allows the door to open. So now the mystery, I need to hold that. So we'll put the door back on and we'll go up under the fender and I'll show you what I got. Basically this goes here. What I'll do, I'll make a little piece to space this out a little bit and fixture it. And I gotta come off of here with a piece of tubing, loop around, and then come back and up, or I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do yet. I gotta do something. So that way when the latch is pulled, the door can open. And this will stay here. And that's how that works. We just got to MacGyver it into existence.
Yeah, I think I like that one better. What we're doing here is we have our 5-inch downpipe material for Eagle, which is what the downpipe's made out of. We're trying to get a setting that'll work really good on this that's a little different than what we usually use for like a header tube. And the reason for that is we don't normally do a lot of pie cuts, not a huge pie cut fan. But if you watch our other videos, Eagle's downpipe, there's not much room. Well, there's not much room anywhere near the turbos. Headers, charge pipe, downpipe, any of it. So we had to do some pie cuts. We used a tight radius 5-inch and then pie cut the sections to make it really tight. And I wanted to see if Taylor could get a setting to where the weld was a little wider and kind of rounded the edges. So if you look at these pie cuts, they're not bad, but like the corners here have a little bit of a sharp edge. So if we can put a weld like this on that edge, it'll almost not even make it look like a pie cut. It'll kind of round those edges out, and it'll also fill the inside corners. It won't look as bad in my opinion. That's why he's doing this. He went around that tube, changed his settings 4 or 5 times. And I think he's got one he likes. Now he's got about 2 hours worth of welding to do on that first downpipe. So he'll probably be over here for a while.
After an hour and a half of polishing.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be fun to polish, especially on the inside. You might have to do some hand polishing on that one. Might not be able to get the polisher around all that.
Nah.
So, but yeah, he's got the setting, the pulse. We can do a little wider weld when we use the pulse because it's on and off. It doesn't put as much heat in the material. It puts, I think it's at, what's that, 180 amps, but it's for like it's barely on at all. Like what percentage is on, do you know? Like 10, 15% or something?
I think the background is 10, and then it's on for 3%.
Yeah, so it's just barely blipping at 180, barely, which gives you a wide weld, and it doesn't put much heat in the material. If you try to run 180 wide open without a pulse, we'd have a hole instantly in that material. So that wouldn't work. What do you think? Looks like a megaphone. Does it work?
Yeah, it'll work.
It work till it don't?
Yeah.
Looks good. I think that'll work. And with stainless, we back purge it. Obviously, you want kind of a ring on the inside, not to be sugared. On the downpipe, we still do it, but it's a little less critical because it's not like the direct, it's not the exhaust, not the header. Downpipe still got to be right, but not as critical. Unfortunately, we did this on Saturday. Travis was not here. He was not working, and we were supposed to video it, and we did a terrible job. So we're gonna have to explain it from here instead of how we built it. This is the downpipe for the passenger side of Eagle, coming out of turbo. We've mentioned a few times there's no room in trying to get this radius really close. There's barely any difference from here to here. So if we use 2 bends, it would be too tight. Unfortunately, I dropped the ball a little bit, and we did this on Saturday, and I didn't record it. So Danny is cutting some pie cuts right now out of a 5-inch 90. So we'll show you a little on how he kind of measures that and why we do that. Also, this is the finished weld where we kind of showed Taylor when he was testing some different pulses and different stuff to get the weld a little bit bigger than we normally do, just to kill the edge. So it's not like a sharp edge. It kind of looks more of a smooth radius.
Pie cuts for the downpipe on the driver's side. Got a whole assortment here. I got to trim up some of them a little narrower. Some of them are just like they should be, but you don't really know exactly what you need until you start working with it. That's a narrow one, but might need it.
A lot of people do pie cuts out of just a straight tube, and they basically pie cut it, right?
Yeah, that'd be flat on each, so you'd have a flat, flat, flat.
Right, which we don't want to do that. So we got the tightest 5-inch, the tightest radius 5-inch we could get. It's not tight enough to get two 90s because we got basically 90, almost 90 out of the turbo and almost 90 out of the fender. And there's just not enough room top to bottom for that long of a leg, that kind of radius. So we're cutting basically pie cuts out of the radius so that it is still round on the outside and inside. It just has a little bit of a sharp edge where the two meet because it's tighter than, basically not taking anything off the outside, and we're taking some off the inside.
Still have a radius, because this is curved and that is curved, but you have it's a little bit more of a hump there. You can't get around that. But what you're winding up with, as you see, this thing is already turning. This is pretty straight with this. This is turning downward. So this is going to wind up being, see how tight that is compared to this leg? You're over a 90 there actually. But I'm saying you're making it makes the radius turn a lot tighter. But the price you pay is, it's not totally symmetrical, but you have to give somewhere.
Yeah, and that's why we videoed Taylor really trying to get the Everlast dialed in to where instead of just a little bead over the top, we kind of did a wider bead, less on, with more amps on the pulse to get that more rounded edge where it is sharp. We tried to round it with a weld a little bit, which actually worked out pretty good.
Yeah, it's a process. I mean, if we have more room, we could use this radius and make everything look like kind of like our headers, only a bigger version of it.
Yeah.
But when there's no room,
you gotta do what you gotta do.
Gotta do.
The first 90, the problem would be hitting the door. The second 90 would be, it would be on the ground because we couldn't get it turned out before the bottom of the fender.
Yeah.
So you're in trouble both ways. So it still looks really good. I'm just not a huge fan of pie cuts. Some people love pie cuts, but doing it out of a radius tube to begin with, and the weld in the corner being a little bit bigger helps it not look as jagged and sharp on the corners.
Yep.
But got the first one done. Doing the second one now. We'll do the wastegate tubes, and then all the hot sides done.
Yeah. Only thing left on headers are EGTs.
EGTs.
That's it. Otherwise they're fully welded out.
Yep, ready to go.
And they look good.
Came out good. Danny did very good.
Amazingly enough, I said it was never going to fit in there. It wasn't going to do it. Not enough room for those big tubes. You start messing with it, and you find out that, oh yeah, you can do this, you can do this, and it actually, that's a good looking header.
Yeah. Yeah, this tube over here, Danny definitely said there was no way it was going to work.
I was pessimistic. I was like, I was doom and gloom. It wasn't going to work. I don't know. And then we started working with it, and actually the hardest two tubes to do on that, me and Cameron got them fabbed up in 3 hours.
Yeah, it came out really good too.
That was like unbelievable.
Definitely happy with it. Hot side almost done. Probably the next 2 days, the hot side will be done. Just got the front end tree welded.
Yep.
Getting ready to panel bond it in, and we'll do a little more explaining. Once it's in the front end, you'll be able to understand it more.
Saturday the tree was made, tacked together. The little contact for the headlights was in. Taylor's welding all that out now. Then it'll get panel bonded in, like you said, and then the front end is mounted, like it's going to be mounted. Just got to trim it into the door yet. Then make mounts in the back to lock it down, but all the turbo stuff has to be all the way to do all that, so we got to do this first.
Yeah, Saturday was a good day.
Yeah.
I just failed miserably at recording any of it.
You did what?
I failed at recording it. I had to GoPro out a few times, but I just...
Oh, you didn't miss much on the video. You'll see the final product.
Yeah, exactly. Taylor's over here welding the front end tree for Eagle. Basically, this is a titanium structure that goes inside of the carbon fiber front end that slides into a fork. So it'll make more sense once it's back in the front end and we put the front end on the chassis. You'll be able to understand a little bit better.
Now that Taylor has our front tree all welded up, it's time to panel bond it into the front end. We panel bond this in permanently. We use a 3M panel bond. It's a 2-part epoxy. Works really well. Basically what I have is some tracing of the pads and my spots where it lands. And I will put a light layer of this on the nose itself, and then I'll put more on the pads themselves. That way when we drop it in and cleco it, it'll ooze out, at which point I'll use a paintbrush and smooth it all out. You prime this. By the time it gets to the end, it's all mixed. You can see I use a paintbrush and just kind of smooth it all around. I try not to get too, I don't know, messy with it. All we're trying to do is bond the titanium tree to the carbon panel. This will sit for maybe 3 hours, and then I'll pull them clecos out, at which point it won't be cured till tomorrow. But it'll be cured enough to get the clecos out without messing them up. And tomorrow, or the next day at some point, I'll take and I'll grind this area again, and then I'll lay carbon fiber over the top of all of this. And that'll ensure that these are bonded on there permanently. You're basically going to destroy the panel trying to take that apart. That's how I've been doing it. It works out pretty well.
I just want to show you guys real quick the headers, because you guys haven't seen the headers finished. This header's completely finished other than adding EGTs, which we will do. We'll mark them on here. We'll add EGTs on the bench. Taylor will probably do that in the next few days when the car comes apart to go to powder coat. Headers are done. Charge pipe is done other than the one weld in the middle where we're going to add a V-band. It's too hard to get this out in one piece. You could if the fuel cell was out, but if you need to get it out of the track, it's going to help having a V-band in the middle. So we're going to make the charge pipe 2 pieces. Other than that, the blow-off valves are on a charge pipe. Headers are done. Downpipe on that side's done. Wastegate tube going to the fenders, pretty close on that side. You saw Danny's got the pie cuts on this side going, and it's looking really good. You can see now kind of like how tight all this stuff was and why it was such a tough header to build. Actually, it wasn't that bad. We thought it was going to be a little harder than it was. And once we got going, I think me and Danny built this whole header in pretty much a day. So not terrible. Just this one was kind of close to the head. And when you have a 2.5-inch primary, which is as big as some cars' exhaust, it's hard to get those bends in that little of a space to get 4 of those tubes all turned around and back into a collector that's only 5 inches away from the head. So it worked out good though, and it actually looks really good. Downpipe came out good, which we were worried about that. The door still has a little bit of clearance. Worked out good. This side will be pretty similar. The turbo locations are the same. Obviously, the compressor is a little different because it's on the other side of the car. So that's a little different. But the downpipe, wastegate stuff will all come out in the same location. It'll have a V-band on the inside of the fender on a downpipe and a wastegate, so you can rotate the bullhorn just a little bit. Probably won't rotate them a lot, but we will rotate them a little bit. I think other than that, Danny's finishing up, lining up this side. It's really close. Everything lines up really good. We're getting close. Had the front end probably finish fit today, start fitting the hood tomorrow. Troy's gonna start on this window lip tomorrow morning when he gets back in. We'll make the tube for the dash, start on the dash. And I think as far as fab stuff goes, it's really, really close to coming apart. Some final welding. Taylor's been jumping around. He's actually back there now doing some welding. So he'll final weld it with Andrew, and then this thing will go to powder coat. We will show you guys the powder coating stuff. I also think Cletus is gonna be there with us when we do the powder coat. He has a color picked out for powder coat. We usually do the chassis one color. We do some other accessories another color, and we do the tin is the same color, but we use a different finish on it. That way it holds up from scratches or rubber or anything else underneath the car in the back. But we will show you that process. Pretty cool. Really nice place at Powder Coat, Southern Powder Coat. They do all our powder coat. They're awesome. They turn it around really fast. Good guys to deal with. So look forward to showing you guys that. That's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on our next one.